Hello, this is Max, personal advisor in Croydon Council's Leaving Care team, coming to you from the Former Relevant YouTube channel. Today we're going to bring you a video tutorial on searching for and finding private rented accommodation on the internet. This is the first in our Hunt for a Home video series, and we're going to begin with a website called SpareRoom. I like SpareRoom. It's my favourite for finding accommodation for a few reasons. As you can see at the top here, there are quite a few rooms available for rent. Also, the SpareRoom website has a dedicated team that checks each property that a landlord tries to upload to the site. So there's that added level of security, so you can try and exclude some of the rogue landlords, which is good. Also, I like the filters that SpareRoom offers you, so you can really drill down and narrow that search to get the property that you're really after. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through this website. We're going to look at how it works, and we're going to hopefully find a decent accommodation or two that we might want to apply for if we were in the position to do so. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to click on this search box here and I'm going to type in Croydon because that's where we are. I'm going to leave this checked as rooms for rent and then I'm going to hit search now. Now when you come to the website, this is the home page, by the way, and this is where you can make your search. Okay, so when you've done that, you come up with a fresh page with all the search results. As you can see here that I'm highlighting, there are 618 results, which is quite a lot. Now those are going to be all the available rooms in Croydon that are up here currently on SpareRoom. Now we don't really have time to look through 618, so we're going to have to try and narrow that search down so we can view the properties that we're particularly interested in. First of all, let me just show you this middle column though. This is where all the properties come up. As you can see, there are quite a few that are new today, which is always promising. And you can see a little description of the property here. You can see the cost per month, where it's located, and a photo if there's a photo uploaded. On the left-hand side, we can see our filters, and this is what we're going to describe first of all and have a look at. So the first filter is show adverts from. Now we have a choice between everything, basically, with this top one, or agents only or private landlords only. Now agents advertising properties will usually have fees attached to them, whereas private landlords aren't. So there's a distinction there that needs to be made. I'm going to leave it on agents and private landlords just to keep our search options quite open. The next and possibly the most important one is rent. Now you've got a minimum amount of rent you can enter here that you wish to spend, and there's a maximum that you can go up to. Hopefully you'll have budgeted before now, worked out exactly how much rent you can afford per month, but I'm going to go ahead and stick in 500. Now PW here stands for per week and PCM is per calendar month. Okay, so we obviously don't want to be paying 500 per week. We want to put it as PCM, per calendar month. There's another option here, which is bills included in the rent. If you tick this, then it's going to search for properties where the maximum rent you've entered is going to cover the costs of your bill, or some of the bills anyway. So that could be gas, electric, maybe internet, but I'm going to leave it unchecked for now. Next we have property type. Now this is probably not going to be popular with many of you, but I'm going to remove studio and one bed flats and whole properties, leaving only rooms in existing shares. So that's a room in a shared accommodation. We have to be realistic here. You're not going to get any studios or one bed flats for £500 a month, although if you do manage to, then I congratulate you. Availability period next. Now some of the properties, I think very few to be honest, are only available for specific days of the week. So for example, you can see here it says weekend lets or Monday to Friday lets. We're going to put 7-day per week let, because we want to be living in the property all the time. We don't want to live there from Monday to Friday and be expected to leave for the weekend. Excuse me. So, rooms available for. So, again, this is fairly self-explanatory. If you want to search for rooms available for any genders or couples, and you can leave it as it is. Or if you want to search for rooms that are specifically for men or women, then you can make your selection there as well. Room size. We're going to treat ourselves. We're going to go for double room. Hopefully that will come up. We're not going to be too ambitious though. We're not going to put ensuite. Ensuite, if you don't know, is basically when there's a bathroom attached to the room, so you'd have your own, your own private space there. I don't think there are going to be too many of those, so I'm not going to tick that. Sharing with. Who do you feel comfortable sharing with? If it's any gender, then leave it as it is, or if you feel more comfortable with just men or women, then you can select that here as well. And again, if you feel more comfortable living with professionals, so people at work, or with students, you can click one of these here. Otherwise, you can just leave it as any occupation. And finally, if you feel more comfortable sharing with someone who's gay, perhaps, or bisexual, then you can tick that as well. Okay, there are a few last property preferences here. Again, I think they all speak for themselves. I'm not going to select any of these though, because they're not that important, to be honest. And miscellaneous. This one is important. Where it says DSS welcome, if you tick that, you're only going to be shown properties where the landlord is willing to accept money from housing benefit or universal credit. Alright, and that's probably going to be a number of you who would be interested in ticking that box. It is going to narrow our search down quite a lot, because unfortunately there aren't that many landlords who are willing to accept benefit or universal credit money. But we are going to leave it ticked and see what comes up. So once we've got all our selections in our filters chosen, then we can click apply filters here at the bottom, and the search is recalculated. Okay, and we've got 5 results for Croydon, so you can see how that's come down quite a lot now. So what was it, 618 before, and now it's down to 5. Which is good in a way, because now we've only got the 5 properties to look through. So just scanning through, there are a fair few without photos. That's not necessarily a deal breaker for me. There might be reasons why a photo hasn't been included, and if you do fancy going for a viewing at any of these places, then you're going to be able to see what the property looks like anyway. Just for the sake of ease though, I am going to go for this one, which does have photos. Okay, and when you click on a property you think you might be interested in, you come to this page. You can see that there's a description at the top. You happen to see that it says all bills included, which is nice. And there are a couple of photos here, so we can click on the photos just to enlarge them. And it's a fairly decent sized looking room. And indeed that teddy bear looks particularly happy, doesn't he? Okay. Now there is definitely a deal breaker here, I can see immediately. It says short stay only. Okay, which means you wouldn't be able to live here for very long. But just for the sake of showing you through exactly what information this page gives you, we're going to stick with it for the moment. So here we can see it says £110 per week the rent is for your double room. If we go down, availability. So where it says available, it will tell you when you can start living here, and it says now, so it's immediately available. Minimum term, so this is the minimum amount of time you can stay in the property before looking to move on. So sometimes it might say 6 months here, and then that would mean that you would have to stay in this property for at least 6 months. Maximum term, now it says here 2 months, so you can't stay in this property for any longer than 2 months, which, you know, isn't that great, because you want to be looking for somewhere that you're going to stay for potentially quite a long time. If it says none here, then that's good. That's what we'd be looking for. Right, extra costs. So under this section, we're going to see what money you would have to put down before actually starting to live here. We can see that there's a deposit of £300. Again, it says bills included. If there are any other costs, they would be put here as well. Amenities. So you can see what the property comes with. We can see that it's furnished, so it has furniture in it, and that there's parking and broadband included as well. So current household. This will tell us about who's living there at the moment. So at the moment, there's only one other person there. There are 2 rooms. We can see that this person is 22 years old, that it's a woman, and that they're a professional, and they speak English. Okay, and new flatmate preferences. So this is what this lady here is looking for in a flatmate. So she doesn't mind if they're a smoker. She doesn't mind if they're paying with benefits, as we know already. She isn't looking for references necessarily. And we can see that she's comfortable living with someone between the ages of 18 and 45 and would prefer it to be a woman. On the left here we can see that there's a longer description of the property. In this description we might see details written down of what the rest of the property is like, what it has. So for example here we can see that she's describing it as having fridge, washing machine, oven, etc. It will often say how close it is to local convenience stores and also to public transport. And at the bottom we can see that it also says no admin fees or references needed and must be paid a month in advance. So again, we get a description here of what the property's like. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back and we're going to look for another property, and I'm just going to show you how much of a problem benefits really can be, and I know that is an issue. If we untick DSS Welcome back on our filter results and click Apply Filters, we go from 5 properties to 170. Okay, so I think that really speaks volumes. Now, if you're not looking for a property where you would have to pay with benefits, you can ask for a bit more in your filters. So I'm going to tick bills included in the rent for this, and I'm going to click Apply Filters again, see if that narrows it down anymore. Because if we're going to pay 500, well, there you go. It's only gone down by 8, so bills tend to be included in quite a lot of these, which is good. Let's have a look at one final property then. Look at that dog. He looks very happy. Okay, so you can see that the prices are all fairly similar. Let's have a look at this one. That looks quite nice. £485 per calendar month. Lots of photos for this one. So again, we can click on it. Decent sized room, very nice kitchen and dining area. And someone knows how to take photos as well. These are quite professional. And there you go, safe apartment complex with CCTV, it says. Nice bathroom, and that's back to the start. So again, here we see a lot of the description here. So it's £485 per calendar month. Right, minimum term 6 months, no maximum term, so this is more like it. Deposit 670. That's a fairly large deposit. Okay, furnished, broadband included, even as a patio area. Current household. So here it's a bit different from the last property. There are 3 flatmates at the moment living there. Total of 4 rooms. So at the moment there are 2 women and there's 1 man. They don't mind what you do, which is always positive. So if you're a student, you could have a look at this. And they don't seem to be bothered about any ages, and they don't really mind if it's a man or a woman who comes to live there. And again, here's the description. It's a better description really than the last one, I would say. Gives you information on the area, transport, what's included as well, so no surprises. And say for argument's sake you're quite interested in this property and you think, you know what, I wouldn't mind going and having a viewing, having a chat with the landlord. you have a few options on this page. You can email the advertiser or phone the advertiser. If possible, I would always look to phone the advertiser, because then you tend to get in touch with them a lot quicker. You can hear them on the phone. You can introduce yourself a little bit better than simply with a paragraph sent by email. I think it's better that way. And if you click, you can click on the same over here. If you haven't created an account on SpareRoom yet, then you'll be invited to do so. As you can see from up here, I already have an account, so I would be free to contact them and try and arrange a viewing. And that is that in essence is how SpareRoom works, and it's also how quite a lot of the other websites work where you can search for private rented properties. Next on the series, we'll be looking at a few other websites, starting with Open Rent, which is another good place to look for properties. But until then, I will say goodbye.